All right, hi everyone, Dr. Renita Glenn White. I go by Dr. V. I am your certified and credentialed transformational life coach. I help career professionals, life changers, aspiring entrepreneurs embrace their brilliance, expand their life, explore new possibilities, and elevate their reality. If you watch me on Instagram, I did a week-long series on things that I've watched on TV, seen on YouTube, or read, or what was recommended by my coach. I watched a few things, shared a few things from a life coaching perspective. And it was on the heels of my coaching in action week that I did to talk about my membership that I have. And it just snowballs into something bigger. And so I was going to just do it for the 7 days because I had taught live, for 5 days straight, a morning and evening class. And those are all on YouTube, by the way. You can go watch them on my YouTube channel at Dr. Renita Glenn White. And then I was like, okay, let me do something for Instagram. I did those live 7 days straight. And I was like, okay, great, I did it. But then I got into this rhythm. And so there's a thought that came up in my head when I watched Chris Rock's Netflix special. And so, of course, I watched it for entertainment, but then I couldn't switch the brain off into looking at life coaching tips. So I was like, okay, Jesus, you're trying to tell me to do something. I am going to honor the divine download and inspired action. So very quickly, I did a poll on Facebook and asked people if they watched it. And some people had their thoughts and they said yes, no, indifferent. And I liked them all. I was like, your perspective is your perspective. Thanks for commenting. And I don't get too much into like the celebrity gossip. I know, some things that are going on, but I don't follow it, and how I keep up with stuff, honestly, is people send it to me, or I'm watching, something on YouTube and it'll scroll by. And so it's not like I actually follow, but there are just certain things that intrigue me. And since I've been on this little kick, I was like, well, why not? Let's jump on the bandwagon. So again, I don't get into the whole gossip. Obviously, I know what's going on. I'm not sharing like every single thing that I watch, but I thought this would be interesting. So one comment was like, well, I don't care what Chris Rock has going on. He made $45 million from that special. And, he said some other things. And so I was like, yeah, I get that. He is in a whole nother tax bracket. So why should we even care about what he has going on in life? Well, he made those $45 million because we do care. We as a people as a whole care about what's going on in celebrity lives. And, celebrity is relative. You can, you might look at politicians and those are your type of celebrities, but in reality, most of us like to know what's going on in the world, even if we're not following it. To me, it's just about, an awareness. So that's just where the attention is. So I was like, I'm going to talk about it. And it's interesting that in one part, if you haven't seen the special, click off because I don't want to ruin anything for you, but come back. But he said, the thing that's addictive is attention. And I was like, well, you got to monitor that because a lot of us like attention. And I will say I am one of them, because if I did not like attention, I would not have asked people what they thought about this and then said I was going to come do a video about it. Something that is trending probably worldwide, but anyway. All right. So let me get into what my takeaways were based on that. So the first thing I said, and you'll see it in the post, I was like, if turning your pain into profit was a person, Chris Rock is definitely an example of that, and how he has turned this situation into that $45 million. And I wonder how many of us, if we had the opportunity, would we know how to do that? But my question is, do you know how to turn something that was painful for you and how to package it to help someone else? And you may not like the word profit. Some people are a little funny about that. But in reality, are you able to provide a service and help someone? And that's what a business really is. Either you're going to relieve a pain point, or you're going to create a desire. And I think Chris Rock did that, but I wonder how many of us can do that. Can you do that? If there's something that you've gone through, can you package it up and then help someone else? And you may not even want to start a business. So it's really like you get to define your profit however you want to. If it's not the dollar signs, that's cool. But the impact, can you take what has happened to you and help someone else? And you might be saying, well, how did he help me? I'm a comedian. The $45 million, obviously he create the desire to laugh and want to have a good time. But then, it's probably relieving his own pain point, to express himself. And that's really how you get through some things. You got to express and get it out of your body so it's not trapped. But that I'm not going to go too deep there. But yeah, so that's what I want to say. Turn your pain into profit, or a way to help someone else, or your pain into a pathway, if you want to say that. And then, yeah, that's what I want to say. All right, so getting into it. He says something about the ER is filled with people with paper cuts. And I thought that was very interesting because he mentioned about people having a victim mentality. And you might not say that you don't have a victim mentality, but if you look it up, it's not, it's real subtle. And I think that's what trips up a lot of people. It's like, if you're in a situation, are you looking for every possible outcome that you can find to get yourself out of the situation? Or are you avoiding responsibility in some type of way? Or are you blaming others? And you might be saying, I'm not doing that, but just pause for a minute and sit there and think about some things. If you are in a situation that you do not like, have you really tried to look at how to get yourself out? Or do you just accept it and say it is what it is? And part of that is a little bit of victim mentality. I'm just saying. So when he said that, I was like, that is so true. I can go through a lot of examples, but I wanted to keep this one real short because this life coaching perspective that I am doing with this, it's not just really my opinion or just talking, but life coaching or coaching in general is about asking you questions to make you go, And then if you answer them truthfully and honestly, it'll help you shift the needle point in your life into the direction that you want to go. So when I'm asking you these questions, they're not judgment questions. You're not submitting them to me, unless you want me to be your coach, but it's just something for you to think about. So as we are being entertained, then I want you to, just have a different perspective about it. So again, are you in if you're in the ER, do you have a paper cut or is your limb falling off? You get to decide and be honest with yourself. The next thing I'm going to say is, it'll probably go into the last point, but I want to say it here. Don't talk about a battle that you're still fighting. I know a lot of people wanted Chris to immediately speak out about the slapped herd across the world, or however they named it. Do y'all remember that? I remember a lot of coaches and businesses had, type slap and get 20% off, or enter the word slap now and get a free whatever. And I was like, y'all are hilarious. But he didn't talk about it. And he did reference how they just talk and share everything about what's going on in their lives. And I was like, well, how many of us really know how to be quiet if we're still in the midst of a storm or in a battle? And you could be like, I want to just share it, I want to tell somebody, but sometimes you just need to keep your mouth closed and shut up. I know I've gone through some things, and some people kind of know, and then they'll call or text and want to know or want me to talk about it. But I've learned my lesson to just shut up sometimes, because one, if I share with you while I'm in it, do you have the solution to fix it right now? If you don't, at this point, it's none of your business, because what are you really going to do? What does it benefit you to be in this battle with me? Unless you're coming with the actual solution, you don't need to know. So watch out for the people who always want to know, and then you have to watch out to see if you're the one that's always do you always have to say something? You're still out there trying to fight. You getting beat up. And I'm not talking about beat up as in, because I was about to say relationship. Those two don't go together. So that's not what I'm saying. But life is beating you up, or a relationship is falling apart. You fired from a job. You don't have any money yet. Somebody passed away, or you just trying to, I don't know, whatever your storm is, if you're still in it and you're still trying to find your way out, or you're still slaying dragons, shut up. So I will say I do like the fact that it took him an entire year to say anything about it. However you feel. There were some people in the comments who were saying it was too personal, it was disrespectful. Hey, you process how you process. The next thing I want to say is, don't bleed on stage. And that's something I got from my coaches. And I will say this, there was a moment where he was bleeding on stage a little bit, but I was like, he has that right. He at the level he is and who he is, and all of the things that come with being a celebrity and a comedian. For that slip up that I saw, he had every right, I'm going to say. But for the most part, don't bleed on stage. And what that is if you, and these are for my people who are out there doing presentations or telling your stories or being a speaker, whatever the case, presenter, you're in front of people, leading people. Don't bring your stuff to your workplace. I don't know who needs to hear that, but I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to put myself out there. I remember I got a consulting contract for a large school district up north, or they consider it Midwest. It was in Ohio, so I don't know. I don't know, up there. And the first time I went out, I was still dealing with some issues with some students from when I was a college professor. And it was bad. I probably need to talk about that one day, but it was a bad situation. And it was personal at that point. And so when I went to do the consulting, because they had seen some of the work I did at the conferences that I presented at, and they liked the work that I was doing, they were like, can you come do that here? And then we're going to invite, some universities and some local school districts. And I was like, sure. And so they paid me, flew me out, did all the things. And I remember as I was going through talking about the content, I was telling the stories about what was happening with the students. And I was still in the midst of it. So one, I was still in the battle. So, and then I was trying to talk my way through it and teach about a concept of how to deal with that. And I didn't fully deal with it. And then I bled on stage for a little bit. I was like really sharing my emotions and what was happening to me. And while I delivered, it was still like the comments from the people were like, she talked a lot about the student and it was really personal and things like that. Some people appreciated and some people didn't. But then the next time I did that, I worked through some things. I got some coaching. I did the work and I was able to stand on top of that. And some of the people who were there from the previous year, they were like, oh my gosh, so much better. And, all the good things. So I just want to say that there's a difference between being vulnerable and bleeding on stage. The second time I did that, I was more vulnerable, but it wasn't raw and I wasn't defending myself and sharing my feelings like that. I'm like, you still got a job to do, chick, scale back. But the other time, I was bleeding on stage. So the question is, that goes a little bit about fighting the battle, like keeping your mouth closed with the battle. Do you always feel the need to want to insert your story or insert what you are going through before you're completely healed? It kind of looks like if you are a speaker and you're telling the story and then you're still crying on stage and you're not helping the people anymore. Now you're kind of like sitting right there with them and they came to hear you for some hope and some inspiration, and you still sitting there hopeless and uninspired. So that's a little bit like that. But in the sense of Chris Rock, there is a moment, and he calls himself out, and I was like, that's a master. He called himself out, he pulled it back, and you have to really listen to catch it. But can you really do that? Do you know how to pull yourself back and understand your limits before you try to heal someone else? So I think the only way he could have done that is because he took that year. But I think a lot of people don't take the time to heal, and we wonder why people aren't getting the help that they need, because transform people and heal people can help others transform and heal. So if you're finding yourself still struggling, either you need to go into therapy, or you may need to do some life coaching, transformational type of work. All right. The one thing I will say from all of that, and if you don't get anything else from the lessons I said about find a way to turn your pain into a profit or a pathway to help someone else, to understand if you are operating in a victim mentality, and be honest with yourself. Are you avoiding solution? Are you not seeking out solutions for your own problems, or are you avoiding responsibility for the things that you've done? And then learn how to close your mouth when you're still fighting a battle. And then if you are the leader, if you are the one that's in charge, sew yourself up so you don't bleed on stage. But if you don't take away anything else, what I got from that is I do commend and respect his process of how he handled himself, regardless of what people may have thought about the jokes. It was a little cringy for me at times, but I'm not going to say which parts, because cringe is relative. But I am a fan of comedy. I love a lot of all types of comedy, honestly, and I felt like he said things that people wish they could say, and things that people were thinking. And here's the thing, you may not have had those thoughts, but you're not the, this is why we have, different type of people. So I just thought it was very interesting about when I saw it on YouTube, some of the comments that people were saying about some of his jokes. And I was like, okay, it's cool. You might not have thought that, but I'm pretty sure a whole bunch of other people did. But the final takeaway as I wrap this up is, whatever you're going through in life, and I heard this from a pastor, I don't know where he got this from, but I have been saying it to myself ever since, and I live by this. Real G's move in silence, like the G in Paradigm. Go look it up and figure out what I'm talking about. There are some things where you need to be in a season where you are silent. That doesn't mean you don't heal. That doesn't mean you don't talk to anyone to get help or support. That doesn't mean you shut down in a certain way, but you know the difference between shutting down and being silent. If you don't, you can come talk to me and have a chat. But remember this, and I think Chris Rock, to me and from my perspective, and listening to everything he said on his special, and the title was strategic too, Selective Outrage, but I'm not even going to go into that. That might be another topic for another day, but I want to talk about these life coaching tips. But heal and move in silence. Your life could drastically transform. All right, so that's all I have for you on this evening. I was like, oh, should I go? Where should I put this? When should I do this? I was like, let me do this now. All right, thank you so much for listening and learning with me. And if you're beginning your day or ending your day, remember the world needs you to be well, to be empowered, to be bold, and to be brilliant. Until next time, bye.